John 5:26. Sicut enim pater habet vitam insemet ipso, sic dedit et filio vitam habere insemet ipso. For just as the Father has life in himself, so has he given also to the Son to have life in himself. This is a fun and interesting verse, mainly because of this construction. It's fun to say and it's fun to read. It doesn't really, unfortunately, come into English so naturally, but it's a good opportunity in this verse to acquaint you with it because you're going to see it in other Latin that you read. Latin from the classical period, Latin from the medieval period, Latin from the Renaissance period, Latin from the 21st century, or the 20th century, or any of the centuries in which people have been speaking and writing Latin. You're going to encounter this right here, which we're going to talk about in a moment. So, as far as the basic meaning of the sentence goes, sicut and seek are our main structuring elements here, okay? When you see these, often you're going to be making some kind of large-scale comparison. Just as this thing happens on the one hand, so on the other hand, this thing happens in a similar manner. There's lots of different ways to create this kind of structure in Latin. Sicut and seek are not the only words that you can use. Ut is very often used in this kind of context, and there's other words that we won't talk about in this video, but they're there. So, sicut sic. So we understand the basic structure here is a comparison. Pater, capitalized here in the edition we've copied from. The Father, that is God the Father, has life in himself. Now, in English, whether we say in se, or in ipso, or in semet ipso, as we have here, it doesn't really make a difference in terms of our English translation. Whoops, that's the wrong syllable there. So the question arises, well, okay, what exactly is the use in Latin of these extra words? So in se is our reflexive pronoun, right? In himself. Ipso performs an intensifying function on that pronoun. So in himself. Already we're running into problems in the English. And believe it or not, met is a further form of intensification. It's for emphasis. And it's almost always found just when attached to personal pronouns, substantive pronouns like ego, to met, ego met, nos met, etc., stuff like that. Occasionally you can find it attached to some other words, but that's generally where you find it. And it simply adds emphasis. And this is fun because this is one of those elements in the language that just is kind of untranslatable. How would a pronoun with this additional emphasis have sounded different to a Roman in antiquity, for instance, than just the pronoun by itself, especially in a sentence like this where there's already emphasis and an indication of something special going on here, some kind of intensification. And that's a really hard question to answer. We'd have to get into the minds of our ancient readers and listeners and try to understand through their sensations what sort of difference it made. But of course, we can't do that at this distance and time and space. So all we have to say, sort of in the poverty of comparing everything to our own language, is just to say it's intensified, it's extra emphasized in his very self. Perhaps we could get away with saying. Now, the other thing we want to mention here is the way that habere is used in the second half of the sentence. The Father has given also, rather than and, I think we want to say has given also to the Son, dative of the person receiving something given. We should be used to seeing the dative, probably with the verb do dare, from which dedit comes. He has given to the Son, in English we might say, the right to have life in himself. But in Latin we just say, he has granted to the Son, we might say, the having, the possession of life in himself. We've got to do it a little bit differently maybe in English to make it idiomatic. But in Latin, nota bene, you can grant to do something to someone. That is the right to do something using this kind of construction.